indeed we are. So just next to Twin Dams, we're a little bit on the sort of western side of Twin Dams. There is a cheetah. Can you believe this? This is absolutely ridiculous. Where a cheetah has come from and what it is doing here, I have absolutely no idea. It's a relaxed cheetah, so which cheetah is and whether it's a male or a female, I haven't established yet. It looks like a female. Well, I mean, I haven't seen a cheetah in so long, I wouldn't even know what a female is, to be honest. But it is ridiculous nonetheless, and so cool to see. I can't actually believe that we've managed to have a cheetah on Djuma after all of this time. Can you believe that? And it's sitting in the shade as relaxed could be, right in the middle of the bush. Where it's come from, I'm at a loss for words. I have no idea where this cheetah could have been from. Now, maybe some of you will be able to ID them. I know that we have two males that we see in this area. One has got a bit of an opaque eye. The other one, well, it's got a bit of a different look to it. It doesn't have any opaque eyes, but maybe the spot patterns will match. Maybe somebody will figure out who this cheetah is. Maybe it's our female that had the cubs, because the cubs would have been at an age that they might have been left alone, and now she's seeking out males. Or who knows, could it be a situation that it is a new individual to this area? Now, I believe a lot of you are super excited, as am I, and you're saying that I need to take a breather. Well, I don't know if I can. I'm sorry. It's that exciting because we sit here in the Sabi Sands and we watch the Mara and we see cheetahs all over the place, and we get a little jealous about it because obviously it's been very tough times for cheetah and with us here in Djuma, and so it's very exciting when we get one. And like I say, here at Twin Dams, of all places, is absolutely ridiculous. So we're super fortunate that we've managed to catch up with it. It seems like it's going to rest and relax and just have a nice snooze, and maybe it will get up a little bit later. So we haven't managed to find a leopard, but I certainly will take this any time of the day. How ridiculous is this? I'm shocked, to be honest. Like I say, I have no idea if it's a male or female, no idea where it's come from. I was saying to Dave earlier that we saw tracks around Philemon's Dip that I thought potentially could be cheetah tracks, and then dismissed it because, well, I haven't seen a cheetah track in that area since I've been at Safari Live. I thought it might be our three-lobed hyena, because there's a hyena here that's got three lobes, and it makes it quite tough sometimes. You see that track and you can be a little bit kind of unsure, so I just dismissed it. But clearly I was wrong, and it was actually a cheetah track that was moving through the property. Scouts, yes, cheetahs do have unique spot patterns like leopards. They have the same kind of system, is that their spots will be arranged differently. So you can use certain spot patterns to be able to ID them, particularly around the head area. On the flanks of the body are always good ones to use, and so there's a number of different ways to do it. But they can be ID'd just as successfully as both leopard and lions around the whisker areas as well. But most of the time you'll find that spots will be used on the flanks of the body or around the back of the head or the sort of area above the eyes, which is very, very cool. It makes it nice and easy to be able to work out who's who. Like I say though, I'm still not 100% sure if it's a male or a female. Maybe some of you that have seen some of the other cheetahs in the Sabi Sands or seen pictures of the other cheetahs in the Sabi Sands, maybe it's the male from south of us. So there's a male that hangs around on Singita, Londolozi area. There's a big southern grassland down there there's a male that moves around there. So maybe it could be him coming north, could be one of our two brothers, like I say, or it could be that female that has the three cubs, that maybe the three cubs have gone independent and she's now actively searching out a male. But absolutely ridiculous. I cannot believe that there is a cheetah sitting on Djuma right now. It's pretty insane. And not only sitting, it's very relaxed as well, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, Ali, you're wondering if there's different subspecies of cheetah. Well, no. So the cheetah that we see here and the cheetah that you see in the Mara are the same thing. There's no different species between the two of them. Unfortunately, though, their numbers were reduced so much so that genetically they're all very similar. And so what they've been trying to do is trying to move cheetah around from Namibia, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and Kenya and Tanzania, and try and kind of mix them all up and try and get a better genetic variety from the small amount that they had. I think at one point cheetah were down to just over 20 in their numbers, and then they were repopulated out from there. So they're all very, very similar genetically. In fact, they can all be traced back to pretty much the same kind of individual. So it's an interesting sort of situation, but there is no subspecies of cheetah here in Africa, that's for sure. which is crazy. Well, which is not crazy, I suppose. It is just how it is. There's no subspecies of leopards either, really. So, Karen, you say there's one cheetah here. Is there likely to be others? Well, no, not necessarily. So, we don't have a situation like the Mara where there's a very big or high density of cheetah where big coalitions form like the Five Musketeers, or a lot of females that have young ones. So it's very seldom that we get cheetah through here, and the cheetah that we do get, often it's males on their own or females on their own. We seldom see bigger coalitions. Also from where she's lying or he's lying, I can't tell you, like I say, if it's male or female. There's no other cheetah that I can see. I don't see a cheetah anywhere else here in these shady sections, and so I don't think there is another one here, and it's not uncommon to find individuals on their own. If it's a female, it's not surprising, because obviously she does have to be on her own sometimes. She will have to mate to produce her cubs before she can have them. And then if it's male, well, maybe he didn't have a coalition member to start with, and it's just been a solitary individual. Or it could be a situation where it's one of the two males that we saw around Cheetah Plains that maybe split for some reason. We know that they did split at the beginning of the year, and so maybe that's the same situation once again, and they've now gotten into a situation where they're kind of looking for each other, and that's why there's this distribution. But I have no idea. Like I say, I'm not sure who it is or where it comes from. Monique, you say seeing a cheetah at Djuma is about as rare as seeing a leopard in the Mara. Well, Monique, I'm not going to lie to you. I think it actually might be rarer. And the reason why I say that is because in my time here at Djuma, which has been a year now, this is only the second sighting of cheetah that has been on Djuma. I luckily have been fortunate enough to see both sets of cheetahs, or both sightings, should I say, but it is only the second time in that entire period that we've seen cheetah on Djuma, or found tracks for cheetah on Djuma. So it gives you an idea of how rare it really is. In the Mara, I know we don't see leopards that often, but there's still been quite a few sightings of them, and I know Brent has seen quite a few off air as well. So Gemma, you're wondering why these cheetah are so rare in the Sabi Sands? A number of reasons. One is habitat is not ideal. If you look at the difference between what we have here and what you see in the Mara, it's a very different picture. The Mara tends to be these big open grassland areas, whereas here we've got a situation where we've got a lot of trees, it's dense, it's thick, and therefore cheetah, one, can't get up to top speed a lot of the time in these areas. Two, they tend to run into other predators a lot of the time. So you'll find a situation where they have a lot of competition with lion, hyena, and leopard, particularly leopards. And so their numbers are controlled a lot by those other apex predators in the area. And because it's so dense, they often get themselves into trouble a lot easier than with those in the Mara. And we've seen how many times those cheetahs in the Mara have come across lions. It's fairly regular. And so these guys, unfortunately, just don't have the option or the ability to see as far. And therefore, a number of them have been killed, and they don't thrive like they would in that open area. It's not to say that parts of Southern Africa or parts of South Africa and the Greater Kruger Park system don't do well. It's just that the Sabi Sands itself is not really great habitat, and coupled with the very high density of leopard and lion and hyena means that it's not a great area for cheetah to survive. If you go into the central parts of the Kruger Park area, and so into the sort of open grassland areas around Satara and then down towards Crocodile Bridge, there the numbers of cheetah are fairly good. You'll find there's a couple down there, and they're fairly sort of successful in those areas. But down here in the Sabi Sands, it's just really not the right type of terrain, and like I say, too many predators for them to survive. This is ridiculous. And like I say, it's so chilled, so it must have seen vehicles off-roading many times, so it's not an animal that's come out of the Kruger, because animals in Kruger generally are a little bit skittish. It also seems to be an animal that must know this area, that it's so comfortable in just sleeping like that. It's not really that kind of perturbed by the cars that are around it, which begs the question as to who this is, and, like I say, why is it here? That is the interesting question. I know there was a cheetah that used to hang around on Arethusa airstrip. Maybe it's that individual. I'm not 100% sure. We also used to have a female many, many moons ago when I first started at Chitwa that had a massive scar down its left side, which was a female cheetah, and that individual just disappeared. Maybe it's her that's come back. I have no idea. Either way, it's exciting, and either way, it's incredibly special that we've managed to find this. And what a way to start off our year, to have a cheetah on Djuma. Absolutely ridiculous. Fag, you're wondering if there's a possibility that this cheetah would have a territory here in Djuma in the near future. Difficult to say. I mean, we do get cheetah moving through and they pass through and they don't set up a territory. I doubt that we're going to see too much of a territory here. We might see it hang around for the next couple of days, but I don't think we'll see a massive territory set up. There's too many leopards here at the moment. I mean, we're sitting in an area, this is exactly where Tundi and Shadow basically were fighting yesterday. So there was 2-3 leopards that were here. We know that, you know, Tingana, Hosana, Tamba, they all move around in this area, which is a potential threat for her. The Nkuma pride, the Styx pride. So I highly doubt that this individual is going to set up a territory right here. It might go towards quarantine and see, oh, hang on a second, this is quite nice, and spend a couple of days around here and maybe every now and then come through. But whether it would set up an actual territory that we would see it more regularly than that, I don't think so, but anything is possible. You never know with animals, they could potentially do it, and wouldn't be the first time that I've seen a cheetah eke out an existence in even the most inhospitable terrain for them. There was a cheetah that used to hang around Simambili, and around Simambili on the Manyeleti drainage there is incredibly thick, much thicker than probably most of the places we have on Djuma. And this cheetah used to roam around in there quite often and was very successful, funny enough, in amongst those thickets. And so it might even be this individual that is here now. So who knows? Maybe. It's possible, I suppose, but I just don't think so. I think it would be a situation where there's too many other predators around for there to be any sort of semblance of hope for this cheetah to actually establish a really big territory or to be here regularly. But you never know. I would be delighted to be proved wrong in this situation and absolutely happy for this cheetah to stick around for a lot longer, that's for sure, because, well, like I say, just ridiculous. To have the spotted cats around in the form of leopards is the most incredible thing, but to have cheetah in a mix as well, for us, is a very special surprise. So I would love to have it around a lot more than what we have seen over the past. I just want to know where it came from. That's my biggest question right now. So, Kathy, you're wondering if Hosana would try and chase this cheetah away and do leopards and cheetahs fight over territory. Well, I'll start with the latter question. So, leopards and cheetah most certainly do fight over territory, and there's been a number of cheetah that have been killed by leopards in the Kruger Park system that I've seen. I've seen a cheetah being hoisted into a tree once before, which is a bit macabre, but does happen. So, leopards will chase cheetahs and most certainly will go after them and not share territory. I mean, there'll obviously be an overlap of territory, but if they catch cheetahs, they will kill them. But in saying that, Hosana seems as though I don't know what, Hosana's got another story to him. He likes to kind of just spend time with everybody, and it seems as though yesterday he was messing around with the wild dogs, and I saw a video of him chasing a hyena around all over the place, and then, he tries to make friends with all the other leopards. So maybe he would try and make friends with this cheetah and just be interested in what it is. I don't think Hosana probably has ever life before, so it would be a thing to know what he did if he came across this animal. I think he'd be more curious than anything else and approach it, and maybe it would be aggressive and that would trigger him to try and chase it. I don't know. I think it would be a very cool sighting to have to see him. On the other hand, though, Tundi and Shadow most certainly would chase this cat because it's a threat to their cubs, and so they would not tolerate this cheetah here at all. There was, when was it? I think it was in 2014, maybe 2015, somewhere there. There was a standoff between Quatila and a cheetah on the Arathusa runway, and eventually Quatila was the one that chased this cheetah, and the cheetah kind of moved off and retreated. But it was interesting to watch that whole interaction because that cheetah actually stood its ground for a little bit with Quatila, and the two of them kind of circled around each other, and then eventually the cheetah decided, no, I'm going to get out of here, and trotted off, and Quatila was left there on the airstrip by herself. But so it just goes to show that generally a cheetah would give way over a leopard 9 times out of 10, or in fact 100 times out of 100 really. I would imagine they might try and defend themselves a little bit, but they'll try and get out as much as possible. Now, Dave, I'm going to just reposition you because I got so excited when we first got in that I didn't really park very nicely at all. So I'm going to try and park in a better way and try and see if I can get a nice view. And while I do that, I believe we're going to go across to Noelle, who's apparently got spider webs all over her lens, and maybe her and Wiem should clean them off, apparently. Well, Noel, yes, it is a better view. We don't have spider webs on our lens, so Dave is being very studious and has made sure our lens is nice and clean. And I've positioned him in a better spot that we can actually see a nice long sort of side of the cheetah, and if it pops its head up, we can at least get a better view. Now, from this position here, it looks potentially like it could be a female. Just the size of it, it looks very small, very slender. It doesn't have that same sort of male build, but like I say, I haven't seen a cheetah in so long that, honestly, I could be completely wrong, but it looks like a female to me. I'm not 100% sure, though. Either way, it is a cheetah that is in need of a meal. If you look at its tummy there, it's quite sucked in. This is quite common for cheetah, though. They often do look like that, but it does look as though it could do with a little bit of food in order to just top that belly up. Wouldn't it be exciting if this cheetah decides to get up just now, start walking, goes on to Weaver's Nest, up Weaver's Nest, all the way to quarantine and starts to hunt on quarantine, and we film a cheetah hunting on quarantine? Wouldn't that just be the most ridiculous thing? Dave, would you want that? Good, yeah. Yes, exactly. Dave wants that as well. I want that. So let's hope that this does happen. It is the most insane thing to think that that could be a possibility. If you had asked me this morning or this afternoon, you're going to go and see, or tell me, sorry, you're going to go and see a cheetah at Twin Dams, and it's going to be on Djuma, I would have laughed at you and told you that that's just ridiculous and you shouldn't tell lies or fibs. But there you go. It's a proof right there that you just absolutely never know what you can see on safari, and it's part of the reason why doing what we do and why people going on safari is just the most magical thing, because you could never, ever in your wildest dreams think of half of the things that you get to see by just driving around here. And some days you get spoilt, some days you don't, but today is definitely a very special day to be able to see a cheetah. And I know it's sleeping, and I know it doesn't look as though it's doing much, and it doesn't seem very interesting maybe to some people who have just joined us, or people who have seen many cheetahs in their life before, but given the circumstance around it, it is very, very, very interesting to me. And I think it's absolutely fascinating that we've got a cheetah on Djuma once again. So I'm super happy. Mohammed, you say look at those perfectly arranged spots. They do have beautiful spots, don't they? You tend to forget. I mean, I always look at leopards and always say that they are the most beautiful animal out here. And the reason why is because we just see them so much that you kind of forget about the beauty of a cheetah's coat. Cheetah does have this incredible sort of coloration. It's much lighter, I find, in the leopards. And those solid spots are also just as beautiful as any leopard as well. So it's a stunning animal. And just, like I say, to be in the presence of it is a very special thing. So super happy that we are able to get here and that it didn't cross out. It looked like, apparently it was kind of moving around and looking like it might go southwards, but the way that it's lying now, it's almost lying in a way that it looks as though it wants to go northwards, which is very, very good. So if it stands up, it's facing north. Hopefully it will then carry on that way and go back up towards the quarantine area. But I'm at a bit of a loss for words. I know it doesn't sound like it because I'm talking a lot, but that's just because I'm excited. But I honestly am at a bit of a loss for words as to what's going on and why there is a cheetah on Djuma right now. Seems as though it's very sleepy too, as well. It doesn't seem as though we're going to get too much from it right now, but it's worth being patient, that's for sure, because you never know. It's that time of the day as well where we might see a situation where this cheetah does decide to get up and to maybe start moving around and having a situation where we'll get some form of excitement out of it. It's hungry enough, so I would imagine that hunting is definitely on the cards, and so we'll have to just see. Enigma, this cheetah doesn't have to travel far at all, so at this stage to go and try and find food and good hunting grounds, there's two options for it. One is to go south, and just south of us here is an area called Luca's Open. Now Luca's Open is on Little Gowrie, and it's a nice little open clearing, and then if it carries on south of that, it goes on to really nice clearings on Hofmans, which is a property to the south of us, and those are really good places for a cheetah to hunt. I've seen cheetah there before, but on Djuma itself, it would probably have to travel walking time for a cat, maybe I would say 15 minutes north of us, which would then take it up towards sort of quarantine area, Philemon's cut line. Those areas would all be okay for a cheetah to hunt on, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do end up hunting in that area. So, that's not too far away. I suppose it seems far because, it takes an animal a while to get there. They don't just walk straight there, and this cheetah probably doesn't know this area very well at all, and therefore it's got a situation where it's got to try and work out exactly what's going on around it. But it's not far away at all. Even Twin Dams itself could theoretically be a hunting ground. So Tulan, who's 5 years old. Hello, Tulan. It's been a long time since I've heard from you, and I hope that you're having a wonderful weekend. And you must say hello to Tucker for me as well. Now, Tulan, you're wondering if cheetahs are as sleepy as the lions and the leopards. Well, yes, they do sleep a lot like the lions and the leopards do. We have a situation where, as you can see, this leopard is quite tired. But, Tulan, normally what happens with cheetah is that they're a little bit more active during the day, so they like to move around while it's still light. They don't like to hunt as much during the night as the lions and the leopards, unless they're the Five Musketeers, who seem to not really care too much, and they don't mind hunting even in the night time. But most of the time the cheetah would like to hunt in the day, and so we get to see them active more than we see what the lions and leopards do, because the lions and leopards tend to be more active during the night time. So this cheetah is probably resting because it's still quite warm, Tulan, but once that sun goes down just a little bit, I think this cheetah might stand up and start moving again, which will be quite nice. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens and just have a little look and see whether or not it does wake up. But I'm very excited, Tulan, and I hope you are too. I hope that we'll get this cheetah to walk around, and that it will be able to see exactly what it gets up to in the last light of the day. For now, though, it's trying to be its best impression of a rug and trying to sleep as much as possible. James, you're wondering if she could attract the cheetah brothers if she were an estrus. Well, most certainly. So, I mean, if she was in proper estrus and she scent marks enough and walks from where the cheetah brothers come from, then yes, we could have a situation that they'll follow her from there. Also, she might vocalize a little bit if she's looking for a mate, and if she vocalizes, then you never know. Maybe they pick it up and they start moving into this area. That's assuming that this is a female. It looks very feminine in its sort of weight and its way that it sort of has built. But if it is a female and its scent marks in the right places and walks in the right areas, then yes, the boys might follow her all the way to Djuma if she's come from those areas. Also, like I say, if she does call and vocalize, we know with leopard and lions, both of the females in that, when they do come into estrus, will vocalize at times to try and attract males towards where they are, or try and find males. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not they do. I mean, if she is a female and she definitely doesn't have cubs, then an estrus cycle is a possibility at some point. And when a female cheetah is roaming like this, it's often because she is in search of a mate. And who knows, maybe that does lead the two boys into these areas. But you can see how much more aware she is than a leopard or a lion. Most leopards and lions would just sleep and wouldn't be too worried. But every little sound that is made around this individual, head goes up, scans around a little bit, listens out with those big ears, just to make sure it's not going to be caught unawares by any one of the other predators or something that could potentially be dangerous. Put back to sleep again. I'm quite curious as to what it is. I'm hoping it's going to turn, and if it turns over or rolls over, its legs hopefully will open, and that will answer the mystery as to whether it's a boy or a girl. At this stage, it's impossible to tell which one it is 100%, but like I said, the build just seems to be a very sleek and slender, and kind of the head and neck area just remind me of a female, not really a male, but I could be wrong. Like I said, it's been so long. Right, now, apparently, while we sit and be patient with our cheetah, who's still very restful, I believe Noel is not restful at all and seems to be up and down and up and down and up and down, and maybe our cheetah can get some lessons in what Noel has been busy doing. Well, I hope that Noel finds her last-minute leopard, and hopefully in the time that Noel is looking for her last-minute leopard, our cheetah decides to stand up and start moving. It would be very, very nice if it did. I'm hoping that for some reason it just sees something that and decides this is what I want to go and maybe hunt or eat. We're in a good place because there's a number of impalas that often come down towards Twin Dams for a drink at this time of the day, and so who knows, maybe this cheetah decides to head down there and catches an impala unawares in that area. That's what I'm hoping for. Whether or not it is going to happen, I'm not quite sure. Now, Spout, you're wondering, what do cheetahs normally hunt? Well, cheetahs will, in the Sabi Sands generally, will hunt small to medium-sized antelope. So they go after a lot of duiker, steenbok particularly. Also impala lambs would be high up on the menu, even impalas themselves. And then also things like scrub hares, they'll also chase those down. Namarits, obviously they go after gazelles more than probably anything else. They do also chase scrub hares. It depends again on the number of cheetah as well. You've seen with the 5 musketeers, they go after fairly large prey in the form of young zebras and young wildebeest and even quite large wildebeest there as well. So the more there are, the easier it becomes to hunt larger animals. But a single cheetah like this, most of what she's going to try and go for are small impalas, steenbok, duiker, scrub hares. That would be what this individual would probably hunt. It's not a massive cheetah, this, and so, you know, at the end of the day, it's not going to be able to really wrestle too much with big things like wildebeest or even zebra. That would be far too big. It might be able to catch one of those baby wildebeest for sure. So at the end of the day, we have a situation where we, you know, we'll try hopefully not have footloose being killed, but if this cheetah would go up there and hunt, I think those little wildies would be probably in a bit of trouble. It seems as though it's just starting to fall asleep again. Now, because we're sitting here and we're waiting and we're being patient for our cheetah to decide to wake up and move around, I think we should have a little one-word tweet about a cheetah on Djuma. What do you think, Dave? One-word tweet about cheetah on Djuma. Hashtag Safari Live, or YouTube chat even if you want to, as to what you think about this cheetah on Djuma. You can either decide if you want to have a emotion, or you can tell me whether you think it's male or female, or anything really, as to what this cheetah kind of evokes in you and what you think about the fact that we have a cheetah on Djuma at this very point. So maybe let's do that and see what everybody thinks out there. I'm pretty sure 99% of you are as excited as I am, because it's ridiculous to actually have this individual here on the property at the moment. Still very curious as to whether it's male or female. I think maybe if the cheetah doesn't decide to move just now, I might just take it, sort of drive around the backside of it and just see if maybe we can get a tail flick and just see if there's any man parts or if it's a little lady part underneath there. We'll have to just have a look and hopefully we'll get something that will confirm what it is. But you can see, look at the head. The head is very small and quite a thin neck as well. So if it is a male, it seems to be that it might be a fairly youngish male. The ears are in quite good condition. There's not too many nicks or cuts out of those ears. There's a little bit of scarring on the back, which would be from ticks, but there's not too much in the way of damage in those ears, and so maybe it's a younger individual, a young male, potentially. I don't know. Interesting. I will have to try and see. My experience with cheetahs is very limited. I certainly don't have as much experience with cheetahs as a lot of other presenters that are part of the Safari Live team. There's a number of others that have spent a lot more time around cheetahs than what I have, and particularly the guys that have been up in Kenya, they've obviously seen some amazing things with the cheetahs. So I don't really know if it is a young male or if it's an old male or if it's a female. Like I say, I'm just guessing, given that I've seen big males, and the 2 males down on Cheetah Plains appear much larger than this individual that we're seeing here. So DCH, both sexes will mark territory, much like a leopard or lion. So they both will urinate and defecate and in a form of marking. You'll find though that much like the lionesses and things, the amount of marking they do generally is far less than what you see from the males. The males will mark everything because they're trying to keep other males out, whereas the females tend to really kind of just go about it and do it, particularly when they feel like there's pressure around. So in this case, let's say with Tundi and Shadow, they would mark quite a bit, and if this is a female, had another female around, I'd expect her to mark a lot more than what she probably is now. Especially if it is an individual that is just passing through, there probably won't be too much scent marking from this individual until it decides, well, maybe this is an area that I'm going to spend time, and then it might. But they both do mark their territories, that's for sure. Right, so we have our cheetah, but Noel has apparently been successful and has managed to track down a slinky rosetted cat. Nest and then go that way. We'll eat an extension. Yeah. Live. Yeah. Right, now, I believe we are live, but unfortunately I have no comms whatsoever, so who knows what's been going on. I'm hoping that she's going to go, or he, I'm not sure, northwards up towards Twin Dams or somewhere in that area. Well, that's the idea anyway. It's yawning, so that might mean that there is time to get up and start moving. All of a sudden there was a bit of a kind of head up and quite alert moving sort of northwards and, well, looking northwards. So I'm hoping that this yawning might be a good sign for us that this cheetah is going to get up and go. Twin Dam's not far, so even if it goes for a drink, it would be quite nice. But let's just have a look. We came around this side because I thought maybe I'll be able to get an idea of whether it's a boy or a girl. But I can't see much at all. There's a lot of grass in the way, but lots of yawning. I think we're going to see it getting up. And its general demeanor to me looks female. Like I say, could be completely wrong, but it just kind of doesn't look as bulky as the males, that's for sure. Particularly the ones that we see around Cheetah Plains. And you can see there's actually 3 spots there just on its right shoulder. So that would be quite nice for trying to ID this animal. If we ever saw other cheetahs, or we have pictures of other cheetahs, maybe somebody who's got pictures of the cheetah female with the 3 that came onto Djuma a few months ago can use those 3 spots just on the shoulder area, just where her head was. You can see there's kind of 3 in a row there, and they're quite unique. So that would be a nice thing to use to be able to maybe try and ID it and try and see whether or not this individual has been seen on Djuma before, or if it's a new cheetah to the area. It's obviously difficult for us because we have a situation where we don't see cheetah regularly enough. Even that female with those 3 cubs, that was the first time we saw her, was a few months ago, and so very difficult to know whether or not this is an individual. But there we go, standing up. It does look female. Was it a male? It is a male, eh? Yes, it is a boy. Look at that. Interesting. So it is a male. It's a young male then, but it's got a sore paw. Look at that. That paw is injured, so it's limping a little bit. Very swollen in that area, which is not ideal for a cheetah, and maybe that's why it's a little bit sort of skinny and why it's ended up in this area. Wonder if this isn't one of those 3 young ones that's moved into this section. Interesting nonetheless, but it's definitely got a bit of trouble walking on that paw. That paw looks a little sore and a little uncomfortable. Let's just try and quickly get through, but I'm surprised it's a male. It must be a young male, because that body and that build is very, very slight in comparison to what I've seen from the big boys on Cheetah Plains. They are quite bulky animals and actually look quite impressive, whereas this guy is fairly small in his appearance, that's for sure. But shame, that front paw is definitely not looking very nice at all. Are you going to just sit there behind the sticks, or are you going to allow us to come round? Oh, this light on this cheetah is absolute. Look at those eyes. Look how beautiful that light is. Sorry, Darby, let me go forward a bit. Look at that. And that is why cheetah have the most mesmerizing eyes, because when you get this orange golden light and it shines in those eyes, it is just, they come alive, and it almost looks like they've got fire in their eyes. They are absolutely stunning creatures when they have that situation. Now, I don't know. I think this cheetah is going to go back into that same spot and maybe just lie down there again. It's sore. It's got a paw that doesn't probably feel very comfortable at all. And so I think it's going to have a situation where maybe it's just going to try and find another place to rest. Although it's moving southwards, and that's, not good. Now, Scarlett, you say for a one-word tweet, you say surreal. Well, it is surreal to have this cheetah on Djuma, and it looks like it might cross southwards over the boundary, so we're going to just try and reverse and try and get one last glimpse of it as it goes over the boundary and sort of heads that way. And while we do that, let's send you over to Noel and Hosanna. Well, it is crossing the boundary. It's just standing on the road though, and then off it goes into Little Gowrie. So pretty amazing to see. That is a spectacular way for us to have a sort of afternoon drive. It's absolutely ridiculous. It seems to be walking okay now. It's very swollen there, and I'm sure it's quite sore, but with a bit of adrenaline, I think this cheetah would actually be able to move fairly well. I think it would be able to actually maybe catch a meal. It definitely could do with one, but it is walking semi-decently, to be honest. It's not as bad as it first kind of appeared when it first stood up, but there it goes, slinking its way through the thickets. And so, unfortunately for us, that's going to be the last that we're going to see of our cheetah as it goes southwards and deeper into Little Gowrie. But how incredible was that? Absolutely amazing. Raghu, you're wondering what the chances of this cheetah's survival is? Well, difficult to say. I mean, at the end of the day, it's limping, which is never easy. There's a number of other predators here, which is going to make life difficult for it, but it's possible. I mean, I've seen other cheetahs survive. The cheetah that I was referring to earlier with the big scar down its side, that was a cheetah that was attacked by lions and somehow managed to survive. It had a gash from its front leg to its back leg, so you can imagine how difficult that was, but yet it found a way. So I'm hoping that this cheetah also finds a way somehow and makes a plan and it gets, well, is able to feed itself, and then we may get to see it again someday soon, which would be quite nice. Right, well, we're going to carry on. I'll go back towards where Thandi and the trucks were and see if maybe we can get lucky there. While we do that, let's go back across to Noel and Hostana.